So I know I am late to the party. Ricky Gervais, Golden Globes. You know what's coming. We're going to talk about that right now. Hi, my name is Kyle, and welcome to my channel where we take culture, TV, and movies and we filter it right. If this is your first time here, please hit that like and subscribe button and that bell icon so that you don't miss any future content. And please, by all means, if you like what you see here, share with your friends. Okay, getting into this, I gotta say quickly, I'm going to assume that you don't know what I'm talking about, but if you have at least logged on the internet at all once today, you would know exactly what I'm talking about, because this monologue that Ricky Gervais, comedian, did on the Golden Globe Awards 2020 is everywhere. It's across liberal factions, it's across conservative factions. You have people like Turning Point USA, you have PragerU, you have all these conservative institutions and organizations and blogs talking about it. It's all over Facebook, it's all over Twitter, it's all over the liberal media as well, the mainstream media as well, NBC, of course. And here's the thing. The people who did not like this don't really want to talk about it. Now, there's been some pushback for what he said, and I'm going to get into this. There's like 8 things I'm going to cover. I'm going to save the best for last, and you probably know what I'm talking about. And I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to give my take on all this. And that's pretty much my perspective, okay? I'm sure you've heard this before if you haven't. So essentially, he comes on stage, and he says he's been doing this for about 5 years, and that this is the last time he's going to do the Golden Globe Awards. So he just doesn't care. He's got a glass of beer on the podium, and he just lets Hollywood rip. I mean, he just goes into it. I will leave a link to this monologue below. You can check it out for yourself. There's one joke that I didn't care for. It was involving Judi Dench, and I'm not going to talk about that because it really wasn't funny in my point. And what I saw was actually bleeped out, so I don't even know what he really said. But I was more concerned with the social commentary. I love social commentary. Chris Rock back in the day, George Carlin, those guys would say things that were shocking. Even David Chappelle, the latest Sticks and Stones. I like comedy that's like that has something to say. I don't like vulgarity just for the sake of vulgarity. I don't mind it being vulgar if there's something to say. And you're missing a lot of that because today in comedy, you're having a situation where people just cannot be funny because people are always wanting to be offended by something. And it's really, really, really a shame. And before we get into what Ricky Gervais said and my take on it, is that this. Okay, in 2015, we started to see the woke movement going forward. South Park did a skit on it, and we think that 2015 is probably the date that the woke movement really started. And whenever you have this situation, we have the pendulum swinging from the middle to the left to the way, way, way wacky left. It takes a few years for that to finally kick back and come back. And I can talk about some of these examples that we're seeing now really quickly. The movie Joker that came out, that was one. You had the Ghostbusters with the female leads. I think that was 2016. That was a big pushback there. Charlie's Angels. You saw The Last Jedi, how that went one way, and then they corrected it in many, 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 many ways, in over-the-top ways, in The Rise of Skywalker. We're seeing a lot of these things happening across the board, where we're seeing there's a self-correction happening, at least when it comes to Hollywood and movies of these big tent items, okay? And so that will be a subject of another video. But this right here, and along with Sticks and Stones, more recently, David Chappelle, his stand-up, which was about an hour. This is like 8 minutes. And this, in my opinion, is just as impactful as Sticks and Stones because of the fact that it's more digestible and you can watch it in 8 minutes and be done with it. And so Sticks and Stones is on Netflix. You kind of got to log on. You got to have an account. And many people didn't see it. And so, but this, a lot of people are seeing it because there's an edited version and there's a unedited version. And so it's out there, okay? Not to mention articles like what I'm about to talk about. I'm going to go off. I'm not going to show the article, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to read the quote. And if I come back and edit this, I will put the quote on top of it. But if not, I'll just leave a link below. This is going to be a quick video. So that being said, so comedy has been really, really, really hard to do because the whole point of comedy is to push that barrier. You push the barrier that you're going to offend somebody. And if you're at a situation where the pendulum is swung so far to the left that everything offends everyone for any reason, for anything, then nothing can be funny. And that's one of the reasons why comedy just has not been what it is. And we will see a change of that because what he did here, what Ricky Gervais did, he set off a powder keg. And what's happening is we're not seeing the kind of pushback that we saw with David Chappelle. David Chappelle got a lot of pushback, even though what David Chappelle said was right as well in a lot of ways. But David Chappelle was, again, a Netflix show. You had to get on, log in, pay for it. This is out there all over the place. There are clips all over the place, and it's harder to hide. It's harder to deny what you're saying as being true. Not to mention, people don't like Hollywood actors and actresses telling them what to do. And it's this whole thing where Hollywood is trying to take the moral authority that we know so much more than you do what we say, live like we tell you to live, eat the way we want you to eat, celebrate and look at life the way we see it, look at your country, your flag, everything the way we see because we know better than you do. Oh, and by the way, when we give our performances in movies, we're going to tell you exactly what we feel like. We're going to tell you exactly what our political agenda is by putting it into the story, never mind what it does for a whole narration for a plot development. In other words, they sacrifice the plot and the story for a political agenda. And so with that, let me get into these things real quickly. So setting the stage, he comes on stage, he's got his beer on the podium, as you can see there in the picture below, and he just kicks in. Now, I'm not going to go on the monologue itself. I will put a link in the monologue. But the first joke he talks about is, I'm going to read this quote here, is on the show called Afterlife. I'm assuming it's a show called Afterlife. He says, season 2 is on the way. So in the end, he obviously didn't kill himself, just like Jeffrey Epstein. Shut up. I know he's your friend. I don't care. You had to make your own way here on your own plane, didn't you? Okay. Afterlife supposedly is supposed to be about a guy who I think lost, I'm totally don't know this. I think it's about he lost his wife and how he wants to kill himself. And so he's talking about season 2. He says, okay, so, obviously Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself either because season 2, he's still alive, right? So that's what he's saying. So what he's saying is that, look, here you have the Me Too movement and Jeffrey Epstein, who is the guy who had the island, who had the pedophile chain and the mysterious death and the whole memes of Epstein didn't kill himself. Well, that's where that's from. He's basically taking a shot at Hollywood saying, look, here you guys talking about you're the moral higher authority, but yet Jeffrey Epstein rubbed shoulders with all you guys. And, that right there, really, really, really should have been a warning to these guys coming into it. He talks about the running time for movies, how movies are so much longer than others. He talked about Leonardo DiCaprio attended the premiere, and this is a movie called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is like it's a Quentin Tarantino film, and it's like 3.5 hours long. He's saying that there's lots of long movies now, and he brings this up and he says Leonardo DiCaprio attended the premiere, and by the end, his date was too old for him. Even Prince Andrew was like, "Come on, mate." So again, jabbing him for this whole moral authority. You guys talk about middle America, how flyover country, and how Trump loving white racist homophobic people, but yet you support people like this, and it's just, and actually I give Leonardo DiCaprio credit because he was actually there and he's actually laughing at the joke, and so a lot of people were laughing at this. Nobody was walking out. It's almost as if they know, well, yeah, he's kind of got a point here. All right, so the next joke he talked about was on, well, I won't talk about this one yet. I'm going to save this one for the last. He talks about Sandra Bullock, and there's this big thing that went on with this Netflix show called Bird Box, right, where you see her on a boat with the blindfolders on, and basically the movie was where people survive by acting like they don't see a thing. Sort of like working for Harvey Weinstein. You know, you did it, not me. And he tells me, shut up. Okay. And so again, he's jabbing them saying, look, you guys are saying, you know, that you have all this social conscience around, but when things are really, really important, you guys put the blindfolders on and act like it's not there. Okay. And he's basically calling them out as hypocrites. And you have to understand, this is a powerful thing that hasn't really been said at all in Hollywood. And, you know, I don't think they were really prepared to hear this. And I'm not sure if he will ever get a shot at the Golden Globes. Again, he mentioned that he had done that 5 times and he didn't care because this is going to be his last time anyway. So he basically came out guns blazing. Also, Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, was there. And his quote here was, Apple roared into the TV game with The Morning Show, a superb drama about the importance of dignity and doing the right thing, made by a company that runs sweatshops in China. Wow. It reminds me of Colin Kaepernick, how he has his Nike campaign where he is trumpeting, you know, his pro-blackness, I would say, pro-consciousness, pro-wokeness, but at the same time working for a company that has child labor overseas. And no different than Apple. And he goes in and lays it right there. And Tim Cook, when you watch the video, you can see as he mentions Apple, he's just like, he doesn't know what to think because he's like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? What's he gonna say? And yeah, he went there. And everyone knows this is true. And I just don't see how they can come out of this, you know, saving face, because they never get called out on any of this stuff. Tom Hanks heard some of these jokes, and you could just see in his face that he was like, wow, I can't laugh at this. If I laugh at this, I'm going to be looked at negatively. Or he could have just been like, you know, I can't deal with this. But I think it was more like, okay, yeah, he's telling the truth. It's funny, but if I laugh, you know, I'm going to be caught. So I'm going to just, you know, not say anything. But in doing so, his facial expression is all over the internet right now, as if to say, oh my goodness, what is this? Okay. Another one he talks about here, which is also pretty interesting that he brought up. And this is actually a really, really smart and clever one. This one's on racial equality. He talks about essentially the whole, you know, the Academy Awards when they said Oscars so white. And so he takes off on that and says this. He says, when I saw the list of people, because, okay, let me set it up, right? So you know how in award shows, they always have the in memoriam, right? Where they show people who passed away the prior year. They give it a list. It's really somber. And you say, wow, I didn't realize that person passed away. Yeah. So he was talking about that. That's the context. So he says, when I saw the list of people that have died, it wasn't diverse enough. It was mostly white people. And I thought, not on my watch. That's brilliant. Right. So what he's saying essentially is that, you know, on that take of so white, he's saying, well, we can do this, but there are too many white people that have died. So we're not going to do it because we need more black people that have died. Otherwise, we can't balance it out. So that twists that whole narrative on its head. And I thought that was really, really clever. And I'm sure it went over heads of many people who were there, but I think they got it. He also got into Kevin Hart a little bit as well. He didn't really talk about that, but the whole thing with him not being able to, you know, do the Academy Awards, something that Kevin Hart had wanted to do his entire life, but because of a tweet he had done, you know, 5 or 6, 7 years ago, they dug up on him and basically kicked him out for that. That's the whole cancel culture thing that is really just, it's gone overboard. All right. And so he also talked about the Me Too movement, and he said, in this room are some of the most important TV and film executives in the world, and they all have one thing in common. They're all terrified of Ronan Farrow. Okay, I don't know much about that, but I'm sure that also offended people as well. Fortunately, I haven't done much on that, but I'm assuming that that's a joke that would offend people because I'm not that in tune with Hollywood culture now, but he said it, so that's what it is. I'll look at later and I'll see. I really don't care. I'm doing this video really, really in the last minute, and I want to get it out there as quickly as possible. All right. And so the one I would really want to talk to you about was the one I think was the most clever, was the one we talked about hypocritical Hollywood. And as you know, for a long time, Hollywood has been using the Oscars, the Grammys, the Golden Globes, the MTV Music Awards, Video Awards, I don't know, whatever it is, whatever platform they have, the BET Awards, ESPN, even if you don't go into the sports, all right, if you don't go into the whole, the Black Lives Matters with the whole, kneeling, everyone's using whatever platform they have to make some kind of statement, okay? Now, not so much into the sports because that's really a different thing, I believe, but in Hollywood, this is specifically geared to Hollywood, but it all falls into that whole woke culture, identity politics, pearl grasping, and he goes on and says this. He says, you say you are woke, but the companies you work for, unbelievable, Apple, Amazon, Disney, mind you, Apple CEOs in the crowd. If ISIS started a streaming service, you would call your agent, wouldn't you? So if you don't win a war tonight, don't use it as a platform to make a political speech. And so he's saying, you know what, guys, you want to talk about all this stuff. You want to talk about stuff that other people do that you don't like. But when it comes to you and your career and the money that you want to make, you set aside and look past all the things of the companies that you're actually being involved with because it suits you. It's a typical leftist narrative. That's a typical leftist mentality, which says basically, do as I say, not as I do. This is the last one. We're in the video here, okay? And this was on political statements and acceptance speeches. And this is what I was trying to get at. So again, backing up. People who are celebrities get on stage and instead of asking thanks for, the director, their wives, their family, whatever, they want to sit up there and spend the time to grandstand and talk about how the rest of the world isn't doing what they think we should be doing. And so this is what this is all about. So he says this. He says, you're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing of the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg. If you win, come up, accept your little award, thank your agent and your God, and shut up. He knew shut up, but you get the picture. That was my favorite one right there. And that's the one we're seeing a lot on the internet because that is what people are really, really tired of. They're tired of watching entertainment. They're tired of watching sports. They're tired of, listening to a song and then or going to a concert and have the person on stage stop the concert for 10 minutes and talk about how badly we are for liking this political view. We didn't pay for that. We paid to hear music, watch you throw a football, basketball, baseball, act. That's it. Life is stressful enough. We have Facebook, Twitter, all these different media things hitting us, Instagram, people bombarding us with stuff. We have unfair media with a bias. Either way, even if the bias is for conservatives, if you're only looking at conservative blogging, it doesn't matter. You're still being hit with a narrative or a perspective. We get tired of that. After a while, we want to back away and we want to go watch a movie. Hey, you know what? I've been at work all day. We've talked around the water cooler. We've talked about this and this and that. I've talked about, this to my wife, to my family, and I've seen commercials. I've seen, news footage, YouTube videos about, any issue you can think about under the sun. So now finally 2 hours out of the day, maybe once a week, you want to go to a movie. You pay your money, your family's there, you have your popcorn ready. This movie is something you've been looking forward to for the past 3 years because it's a sequel probably or whatever. And now the curtain comes up and here come your trailers. They hit you with issue A. Okay, if you believe in this, you're a scumbag. Trailer number 2 comes up. Issue number B. If you believe in this, you're a scumbag. Okay, maybe this is just a trailer. Maybe it could be the movies. Trailer number 3. You get a situation where, if you think this way, then you must do this. You must, and it's bombarding you with all this stuff. And so then finally the movie finally comes up. You think, okay, fine, all those trailers are done. Not to mention they hit you with all those commercials too that do the same thing. They give you commercials in movie theaters. What the heck? Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. So they give you this movie, you're watching it, you're looking at it, and all of a sudden, the story is going to be from A to B and then from B to C, and it's going to be it. 3 acts. But you know what? As they go from A to B, they take a detour to Q and talk about something that has nothing to do with B at all. Makes no sense. Makes you feel like an idiot for believing what you believe. They put subtleties into the storylines, shove in agenda that only 2% of the population agrees with, and certainly you don't agree with it. And then they come back to B after wasting 30 minutes of the movie, and now the whole thing doesn't work. And then they go off to the C, maybe another detour, maybe the X, and come back to C, and your movie is just totally screwed up. And that's exactly what the Rise of Skywalker was like. Okay, it was the same way. It was trying to correct The Last Jedi, but it had to do all of this just to navigate and undo what the previous movie had done. So that is that. I want to keep this video short. I know I went over longer than I want to, but have you seen this particular monologue? Let me know. I am curious because I think it's important. I think it's really, really important. And I think, that this could be a tipping point, that 2015 could be looked at as the beginning of the woke movement and how Hollywood started to make that left turn way, way left. And now 2020, only 5 years later, we're beginning to see that come back to the middle. I think what we're seeing in Hollywood with some movies that have come out, how they're reversing their track, how people aren't coming to theaters anymore. Comic books are going downhill. I don't know what the ratings are on TV right now, but I know Hollywood, in terms of the movies, we're definitely seeing a swing back to the middle. And that would be a good thing. And so look at The Mandalorian, the Star Wars on Disney+. That, from what I'm hearing, was a direct result of what happened with The Last Jedi, to self-correct and say, hey, come on, fans, we apologize for all this identity politics. Here's a Star Wars themed story minus the agenda. And that's what people want. They want to be able to escape for the time they want to escape and then move on. If you want to go to a movie, you should not have to be bombarded with that, because you're hit with it all the time. Otherwise, why go? You might as well stay at home if you're going to get that. Okay? So with that, I hope this was a good video. If you like the content on this channel where we take culture, TV, and movies and we filter it right, please click that like and subscribe button and that bell icon. And please, please, please share with your friends, because that's the only way this is going to get propagated out, because I want to be able to get this message and this thing growing to give me incentive to keep doing this. Okay. And so with that, if you could check out some videos I have right here, I'd also be appreciative. And with that, I will see you guys next time.